Good. All right, so we'll move into a little bit of history here of the founder and CEO, Nicholas Melillo. Those of you that are familiar with estate products, that is where he got his start. But long before he was a master blender, he was introduced to cigars by his grandfather at a very young age. That led him to, picking up a job at a retail store called the Calabash Shop in Mandan, Connecticut, where he grew up, as a part-time, summer gig while he was in school. He fell in love with it, and at that point in time, he did meet Jonathan Drew very early on in the inception of Drew Estate. He somehow swindled Nick into moving down to Nicaragua in 2003 when, everything was dirt roads, you had brownouts, there was no Wi-Fi, and he really had no choice but to ingratiate himself into the culture of the folks that operate, the cigar industry in Esteli. So he was a sponge. He was in his early 20s. He learned blending techniques from the Padrones, the Garcias, Kiki Berger, all the legends that produce the cigars that we all know and love today. He was able to kind of ascertain all that knowledge at a young age and implement it into his own styles. When he got down there in 2003, those of you that might be aware of Perdomo cigars, for example, they were rolling cigars at the back of his house. You're doing maybe 100 cigars a day at first. But at the time of his departure in 2013, 10 years of 100,000 premium cigars a day, with less than a 1% rejection rate. So that is an insane amount of growth and an insane dedication to production and quality and consistency. He made the difficult decision to depart in 2014. He comes from a family of entrepreneurs and always wanted to be able to spread his wings and showcase his ability to own and operate his own company. And for you guys that might not be aware, we're always dealing with challenges when it comes to FDA oversight and legislature in the tobacco business. And at this point in time, there was the looming threat in which no new companies could enter the marketplace. So he really did kind of take the dive off the cliff with no parachute to give it a shot at starting his own company. So Foundation launched in the fall of 2015 with one brand. We're proud to say that we're now here 10 and a half years later with a wonderful assortment of products that you guys can see on the table behind me. And now that we'll get into all those different offerings and see if we can find something that you guys would enjoy to smoke. All right, so we're going to start with a special one, probably the only one that we don't have out here. But we celebrated 10 years in business last year, and as any cigar company does, you have to have a cigar to commemorate that milestone. So this cigar, utilizes a very unique hybrid-style tobacco that we grow on our farm in Connecticut that incorporates both a hybridization of Connecticut broadleaf and a Cuban seed that we call Havana CT 142. You end up picking up both elements that those varietals have to offer. So you have some nice earthy, raisiny sweetness from the broadleaf, and you have a nice touch of spice and cedar from the Cuban seed. Underneath the wrapper, you have a Brazilian Malafina binder. Very unique type of tobacco with very low yields. It helps really add a layer of richness to the cigar and buffer out the Nicaraguan fillers to a certain extent as well. You're left with an incredibly rich, full-bodied, unctuous, delicious celebratory cigar and an awesome 7x58 Salomon style. The presentation on these, if you guys have your smartphones on you or whatnot, I would encourage you to look at the 20-count collector's chest. It is a really unique style collector's piece, which we've made a couple hundred boxes of, and they're continuing to trickle into the marketplace. The design is based off of a 1920s Hoya de Monterrey Cuban chest. And I don't think people had used the design since because it's such a pain to work with, but it is unbelievable presentation. You crack open the chest, it's got two fold-out trays and a layer of cigars in the bottom. So if you guys see them, definitely take snag them. I'm sure these guys will be having them back in. We've been a little behind on inventory on them because they've been super popular and a pain to produce, but the proof is in the pudding when these guys are around.